Hey everyone, welcome to this daily Sidereal Astrology forecast. So today we've got still the balsamic phase of the lunar cycle, which means a lowering energy time. We do have a new moon on Friday. So as we approach it, it really is the time of doing clearing in our lives. So this could be clearing internally, through the reflection, through meditation, things like this, through the rest and relaxation perhaps, just creating some space. And it's through this space that the new moon will be planting some new seeds in our life collectively, going into the weekend. And that's a good way of working with this end of the last lunar cycle. And that's essentially what we've got, is we've got the moon in Sagittarius today, which was the location of the last lunar cycle. And if you recall, the past 30 days was very much about our belief systems, very much about our worldview, the bigger picture, right? And so maybe reflecting on that as well and seeing what we learned about the importance of our belief systems and our expansive worldview and taking that into next week. Now, in terms of the aspects, we do have Venus conjoining up to Chiron, so there is some healing taking place. I think particularly with our relationships here this part of the week, and maybe even too with our sense of self-worth, which is also a Venusian thing. So if any wounds come up about relationships, our sense of self-worth, our values, these kinds of things, I think going deeper, which is what Chiron really calls us to do, to go deeper, to be aware of them, to maybe learn some things about them, and at the end of the day, accept them, so we go through that healing and rejuvenation process. All right, so we'll talk about this in more detail right after we return. All right, so we've got, this balsamic phase, moon in Sagittarius. We went through a lot of healing earlier in the week already, which was the moon going through Ophiuchus and Scorpio. Maybe it was quite deep or whatnot emotionally. But now, even though it's a lowered energy time from the balsamic phase, there is an expansive energy to it. And again, I think it's really good to accentuate that a bit. Take what we learned about adventurousness, about opening our horizons, to accessing that free-spiritedness of ours, or maybe philosophical side. All of that can be great today with Sag, and as a result, sort of feeling and creating space with what is actually leaving in regards to the Sagittarius energy from the last lunar cycle. Now, the new moon is going to be in Capricorn, and that's where the sun has been shifting into. So the new beginnings will be more about structures in our life. In fact, we've probably been focused more on wanting structures in our life, or being willing to take a longer term approach, a patient approach, which is what Capricorn really symbolizes. So as we continue to do that, as we approach the new moon, I think we are gaining some insights. There will be some new ideas shaping up. We can feel the sense of freshness, and a lot of it is about where we can build things, where we can take things slow, and yes, cultivate those long-term values of ours. So a great source of energy there with the sun. Of course, we still do have a lot of Pisces energy. We got Venus, who is going over that Chiron in Pisces, and of course, Mars is here as well. So Pisces, it is the constellation of unconditionality, of letting go, of surrendering, essentially letting go of everything outside of our immediate sphere of influence. So the more we're willing to do that, the more we're healing, in fact, today with Chiron. Also, the more we're able to connect with others. Venus in Pisces, which, mind you, she is exalted here, so she does like to be here. This can bring in very good acceptance in relationships, unconditionality, willingness to go with the flow, easygoingness. But we may have to do some healing in regards to that, right? So let's talk about that. That's going to be exact mostly the first half of the day. So I think as the day unfolds, probably feeling more rejuvenated and refreshed from that conjunction. So the key here is, like I was saying, it's really good to dive deep with Chiron. See if there are any wounds that come up today regarding particularly our inner perspective on things. And I think this is our perspective on relationships, how we view others, or maybe a specific other in our life, someone close to us perhaps. And see if there's any doubts, any insecurities, any wounds that come up through this, and then going into them, right? Accepting them, being more aware of them, learning about them. And as a result, that can really rejuvenate us and refresh us. And I think the whole healing process is going to happen very naturally. That's usually what happens with conjunctions, especially with Venus exalted. It can be quite easy to do this. And so as we go into the rest of the week, yes, feeling refreshed because we've done the healing there. And it can certainly benefit our relationships and our values. And again, that sense of self-worth, because that's really where it starts with Venus, right? It's that inner value and gratitude and really accessing our inner resources and understanding that, yes, we do have everything that we need to cultivate the things we truly value in life and to connect to those we truly value in life. But with this kind of aspect, yes, sometimes we have to do the healing to do that. Now, do know that Chiron is very subjective, so it's not an external, representation. In other words, we are very good with relationships. We are very good with cultivating our values. It's just with Chiron, it can feel like we're not. So know it's subjective. Know that today it's an internal process. And as we do that internal healing, we'll see as this cycle continues, because this is a very large cycle, it's a yearly cycle with this. But as this continues, it is influencing, it is benefiting our relationships, our values, and again, those things that we enjoy in life. All right, so that's definitely the most important aspect here today. The moon is forming a couple, particularly in the second half, so we could feel that maybe we're wanting to learn and really get into the mental sphere of things the second half. It could certainly be possible. And again, in Sagittarius, Mercury, who is just now slowly coming out of his shadow from his very long retrograde of Sagittarius this past month plus, the whole time period of this. We can really learn what we learned this past cycle about thinking big, about the higher perspective, about seeing the top-down perspective of life, and examining our belief systems, examining our worldview. And so the second half, yes, very good for thinking about that or reflecting on that, maybe doing some reading, some writing, some communication, some sharing of insights, sharing of theories and philosophies, which is also Sagittarius. And that's also starting a sort of lunar cycle with our mind and our perspective on things. All right, and then of course, Mercury was sextiling Neptune earlier in the week, so the moon will be sextiling Neptune. Not a major thing, but a sort of opening. We might feel a bit easygoing. We might feel a bit receptive and intuitive the second half of the day. All right, so that's the day in a nutshell. Yep, definitely a day of healing, particularly in Pisces, where we can let go, detach, surrender. Everything outside of our immediate control, involving relationships, involving values, involving the things we enjoy in life. In fact, with Mars here, it's already been this way. It's been so important for us to detach in order to get things done, to really listen to that receptive approach to life and put energy where life is sort of pulling us to put energy, or where our intuition is guiding us to put energy, being present, intuitive with action. But definitely a rejuvenation as we go into the rest of the week, diving deep today with any wounds about relationships, about our values, can be very refreshing, in fact. And yes, the balsamic phase, a new moon around the corner on Friday in Capricorn, suggesting some new structures being built around the corner. All right, so I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you again for all of your support, and I will see you all tomorrow.